Delighted for you to meet Cheyenne Scarborough, who is making her directorial debut at deadCenter. Good to see you, Cheyenne.
Nice to see you.
You're an attorney. You've done some work with some big names, done some big projects. So glad you're at deadCenter. So let's just start with what happened last year. You worked on a film as a set dresser. We're all trying to figure out all these new jobs that have come to Oklahoma because of the rebate and the films that have been shot here. But a year ago, you won an award. You were on that with set dresser of a actress that's now pretty famous because of some of her work in the last year or so. So let's talk about your movement into the film industry. It's like a lot of people, who were doing other things years ago and all of a sudden they're making movies. How did it start with you?
It all started with Sterling Harjo's film Miko. That was my first kind of real job on a set, and it was sort of by accident. I just sort of popped in to drop off some coffee to someone at their office, and Sterling was like, "Hey, you can sew, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." Next thing I know, I'm hand stitching a jacket. But I really loved the atmosphere on set, and I did a few little projects here and there, but nothing big enough to really make it a full-time thing until Reservation Dogs started.
Which just put us on the map with some other things. If you don't know who Sterling Harjo is, you should know by now. Reservation Dogs is maybe one of the most entertaining things I've ever watched. Right? And so, but that's like a typical Hollywood story. Like you've heard, they were discovered at the drugstore, just sitting there. But this really was just delivering some coffee. Yeah,
I just happened to be, I just kind of got roped into it. But yeah, Reservation Dogs was fantastic. I kind of joke that Res Dogs was my film school. Because I hadn't had a ton of experience before that, but in those 3 years I learned so much, and it was just such a beautiful experience being on that set because everyone, it's not always the case in our industry, but especially on like a Sterling Harjo set, especially in Oklahoma, there's a warmth and a joyfulness and a generosity that everybody is just trying to help everyone else out and also teach the people that might not have as much experience as some of the veterans do. And it was just great.
All right, so fast forward. We've seen the pictures of you on set directing this film, Vivian, and describe your directing style and what you were trying to do with this movie.
Well, we shot on film, actual film.
Yeah, there's not a lot of that. In Hollywood there is, but not for videotape people.
It was really exciting.
Digital.
And a little bit daunting.
Did they do Reservation Dogs on film?
No.
Okay.
No, that was
so
digital.
Tell me, sorry to interrupt, but how did you decide film?
Well, we got really lucky, and there was Sunrise actually donated some film stock, and my DP, Charles Elmore, also had some that were kind of like left over from other projects, and they both came to me and said, "We have this. Do you want to use it? We think it lends itself really well to the story and to the atmosphere that you want to create." And I couldn't have been more excited, and I was just dumb enough to not know what a gamble it is. But I'm a little bit of a gambler anyway, so yeah, we just did it.
All right, we don't want any spoilers, but it's going to be, the film is going to be played twice at deadCenter. Give us an idea about what's in store for us when we see Vivian.
Vivian, in making the film, I really believe in the importance of telling of art and telling stories from the working class perspective. And I think that Oklahoma has such a rich texture and landscape and is very inspiring visually, but even more than that, I think the people that inhabit it are incredibly inspiring to me. And so I wanted to tell a story about my community, about kind of the world that I inhabit, and I wanted to show people what I see when I look around, because I think people have a lot of misconceptions about what Oklahoma is and what we're like here. And so I just wanted to give people kind of like a flavor. And it's also a little bit, you know, Tulsa's grown a lot in the last several years, and I think, you know, Oklahoma City has as well. But there's like there's like a specialness to when I was coming up and a little bit younger in Tulsa, like a grittiness that is kind of like slowly slipping away. And I sort of wanted to, it's a love letter to that point in time, and I kind of wanted to capture it.
So this is about a woman who is trying to stave off the wolf at the door, right? I mean, that's essentially the premise of this movie. You know, this is going to be one of those movies that people are going to draw parallels to the economy now, perhaps something that may be happening in November. There's going to be discussion whether women will be motivated to go vote, which they will be. There's a lot of that. Your thoughts about the main character and what the message is people should take away?
I think, you know, especially being a young woman, being a single woman, working in the service industry, there is a precarity to that, because you don't always know. It's not like having a 9-to-5 where you're like, okay, I worked X amount of hours, I know I'm gonna get this paycheck at the end of the week. There's so many times in my own life as a bartender that it's like you go into work and you're like, God, I gotta make X amount of dollars today, or I'm not gonna be able to pay my rent tomorrow. And you don't know if that's gonna happen. Like, you could get lucky, you could have a great night, you could have 5 people come in and walk out with 20 bucks in your pocket and be, you know, out of luck. And so it's a real tightrope, and I think there's where sort of the social safety nets are being, you know, dismantled and getting fewer and far between, and so it feels like you're on your own out there.
Not only the service industry, but the gig industry that has popped up, and people talk about no safety net there.
Yep.
Your thoughts about what, for people who don't really understand this, about this sort of an economy, what maybe people in positions of power need to take away?
You know, I'm just a bartender, so I don't really know. I don't necessarily know the answers of what people should do, but I think the idea with any, at least for me, any kind of artistic expression is to maybe create a little bit of compassion, maybe open up people's mind a little bit to a different kind of way that people live, the way that people experience the world. But more than doing that, I think with this, what I really wanted was for people that I think get disrespected and overlooked a lot and dismissed. I wanted them to feel seen and appreciated, and that their life matters, and that story is worth telling and being seen, because I think, especially, in the service industry, there's a lot of dismissal of like, okay, but what do you really want to do? And it's like, what I really want to do is pay my bills. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think some of the most interesting, smart people that I've ever met, and people that I've learned the most from about literature and art and philosophy have all been in the service industry. And I don't think they get the respect that they deserve.
You've worked with Sterling Harjo, Lily Gladstone, Dylan Brodie, who is in this, and you've done some work with him, not just your film, but some of his films. He's an icon at deadCenter. What's it like working with all those folks? Because you rub elbows with geniuses, people are going to listen to you.
I'm incredibly lucky that I've been able to work on the projects that I've been able to work on, and oh man, Dylan Brodie is just, he's the best of us. He is a real champion of filmmaking in Oklahoma, and we would be nowhere near where we are today without how his hard work and dedication and his commitment to really fostering the Oklahoma crew and making sure that they're getting the kind of jobs that they deserve. I've also, I've been lucky enough to work most of the projects actually that I've worked on. Lily has also been a part of, and she's just an absolute gem. One of the most talented professional actors that I've ever worked with. That's also just incredibly kind. And Sterling, Erica, incredibly generous with their time and their insight. You know, there's not, I think in other places, somebody like me would never be able to make a film. My film was almost entirely self-financed. I paid for a huge chunk of the budget through bartending while I was also working on set, just trying to save up enough money as possible. But at the end of the day, we ended up that we were going to need more than what I had, and Erica was so generous, and she gave us a small grant. That's what allowed us to get our camera package to actually be able to shoot on film, because it's really expensive. And Sterling, I didn't even know this till it was all said and done, but Sterling paid for our catering, and that's stuff that, I'm not anybody. They just did that because they want to see the next generation of people coming up being able to do it, and they haven't forgotten how hard it was to do it themselves. And it's not the case in a lot of other places, and
Well,
it's really special. It's really, really special to be able to work here with these people.
Well, Cheyenne Scarborough and Francis Coppola finance their own movies, but when you have people like Sterling Harjo and others taking interest in your movies, it says that you're not a nobody, that you're somebody and understand this industry. I think it's wonderful. People that I've talked to who've seen this movie say it's inspiring, and she's calling it a love letter to the people in that industry to get some respect. And the people that you're working with are saying, you know what you're doing. So I'm really, really looking forward to this, and I think people will get to see it twice at deadCenter and Cheyenne Scarborough. Thanks for coming by, and good luck with this.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right.